who are different or lead us to try to get some sinister other under control. It can be contagious, spreading through societies and through nations. And if we let it consume us, the consequences of that fear can be worse than any outward threat.
All right, that was the president preaching against fear earlier today at the National Prayer Breakfast. Now, his speech came just one day after he visited a controversial mosque in Baltimore. Here with reaction, Fox News contributor Dr. Robert Jeffers and Act for America President Bridgette Gabriel. Bridgette, let's talk about the mosque he went to. You have discussed this. You say that this has ties to radicalism. Explain that mosque in Baltimore.
The mosque in Baltimore has a long history of ties to the Muslim Brotherhood organization, and specifically to ISNA, the Islamic Society of North America, which was mentioned in the Muslim Brotherhood Project, a 100-year plan for radical Islam to infiltrate and dominate the West, and specifically in the part that is written about the destruction of the United States and sabotaging America from within. ISNA was mentioned as the #1 organization set up by the Muslim Brotherhood in the United States at the largest anti-terrorism financing trial in the history of the United States, where our government handed down 108 guilty verdicts for Muslim American and Muslim American organizations raising money in America and sending it overseas to support terrorism.
Yeah.
The mosque is also owned by NATE, the North American Islamic Trust, which is also named in the Muslim Brotherhood Project. The imam that preached at the mosque for 15 years, Imam al-Sheikh, not only had ties to radical Islamic organizations that raised money in America for Islamic organizations overseas, but was also the top al-Qaeda operative in Yemen after he left the mosque and finally was killed by a drone by our government in 2011.
Does anybody in the White House ever vet these moments? You know, for Dr. Jeffers, for a president that has talked about the terrible deeds done in the name of the Christ, and I think clearly doesn't have an understanding of the Crusades and what precipitated it, then the president always goes out of his way. If you want to talk about the hate crime and the religion that is the victim of hate crimes in America by a very large margin, it's Jewish Americans, not Muslim Americans. And the president always goes out of his way to praise Islam, like this.
The United States is not and will never be at war with Islam. And I'm also proud to carry with me the goodwill of the American people and a greeting of peace from Muslim communities in my country. Assalamu alaikum. Islam is not part of the problem in combating violent extremism. It is an important part of promoting peace. Our enemies respect no religious freedom. Al-Qaeda's cause is not Islam.
Now, the president, he never mentions radical Islam. He doesn't talk about Muslim countries that oppress minorities and women and people of other faiths and gays and lesbians, Dr. Jeffers. Why?
Well, because he's operating in his favorite role. He was in that role yesterday at the mosque and today at the prayer breakfast, and that is defender-in-chief of Islam. Now, look, I appreciated many of the things the president said today about faith, but the implication was fear that if you are overly concerned about terrorism, or if you try to draw a link between Islam and terrorism, you're not a person of faith, you're a person of fear. Well, the fact is, Sean, there is a link between Islam and terrorism. Yeah. I would remind the president that there is a reason the Islamic State is not called the Episcopalian State. And we all recognize that while not all Muslims or even most Muslims are terrorists, we cannot deny the fact that the single greatest threat to the security of this country is not Islamophobic Christians, it's radical Muslims.
And Bridgette, the oppression of women in particular in Muslim countries is always ignored in the name of Islam. Why?
The oppression of women, of children, the beating of children. I mean, look at what ISIS is doing right now in the Islamic State to women and children. Because women under Islam are considered second-class citizens. A woman's worth is half of that of a man. If a woman is raped, she needs 4 witnesses in order for her not to be basically killed for committing adultery, in order for her to get off death. There's no respect for women under Islam.